How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. What a heartbreaking movie. What a heartbreaking movie. I really was impressed with it. I know that you're from Rogers Park, and this could have been in any public housing community across the country. What drew you to the whole Cabrini Green history in that location?
Cabrini Green is one of the most notorious public housing projects in America. Um, and it's a really important part of Chicago history of what happened, of how the projects were built, but also what happened to them with the plan for transformation and, the displacement of the community afterward, after the high rises were demolished. I grew up here. I was born and raised in Chicago. I was very aware of Cabrini Green. I'm not from there, but it was a place that we were very aware of. And when I graduated college, the year before, in 2011, the last of the high rises had been demolished. And so when I came back to the city, it felt like a really different place. And I was coming back to Chicago for personal reasons. My father had passed, and my family was really trying to figure out what to do with our home. And I was interested in exploring this relationship of home and what it means, especially as it's so drastically changed for me without my father there. And I was really drawn to the story of a community and their relationship to a place that they felt very strongly connected to, even though it no longer existed physically. And I started interviewing people who had lived in the high rises, and it sort of naturally unfolded that I kept meeting people who had grown up or lived in Cabrini Green at some point or another. And, one person led to another. And over the course of 4 or 5 years, it took shape that this story was really special and different from what I had already, I had expected to hear and learn about Cabrini Green. And that it was a film in a perspective that I just hadn't seen before. My hope was to portray this place as being able to hold both the light and the dark at the same time, that it was a place that was at times dangerous and difficult to grow up in, but was also full of joy and, the mundane everyday life stuff that, we all go through. And that's what really drew me to Cabrini Green. And also I'm just, I've filmed my last two movies here, and it's been really special to come back here and share a part of a slice of the city in this movie.
I think I grew up an hour from Chicago. I lived there for about 8 years, and its reputation was, as you say, notorious. And I'm glad that you showed this other side to it, because yeah, its reputation outgrew the reality of what it was, obviously. Can you speak a little bit about Blake Cameron James and Gian Knight Ramirez? My God, these two kids, their faces, their interactions, you got so lucky finding them. I mean, how did they cross your path? They're fantastic.
It's incredible luck. We had a casting process that took over a year and a half, and our casting directors, Claire Simon and Aisha Coley, sifted through hundreds of auditions, and they were all over Zoom because this was, during pandemic times. And so we were really just trying to find these kids, and it's an exceptionally difficult film to cast because these kids aren't silent protagonists. They're really, take agency in the movie, and they have scenes where it's just the two of them, and they have dialogue. They carry the movie on their shoulders. And so I was really adamant that I can't make this movie unless I find these kids. Blake's tape came in, and it was just so clear. Immediately he had the charisma of Malik and, just that spirit. And when I saw Gion's tape, it was just, he felt like he was part of this world. And he's a kid from Chicago, and I'm a kid from Chicago, and I just immediately felt this kinship that these are the right kids for this movie. And, it was magic with the first day we were filming, and, to see them on camera, I knew that we had the movie because we had them.
You know, I don't really understand how the relationship is between a director and the composer that scores your films.
Yeah.
But Jay Wadley's score, I mean, I usually don't sit through the credits, but I sat through the entire credits to listen to his music, and his music just so perfectly complements what you're showing. How does that work? I mean, what do you tell him? Do you say, hey, I want this feeling, I want that feeling, or does he watch it and come back with something and say, hey, how does this work?
Jay and I decided early on that we were going to have the score be such an integral part to the movie that it wasn't going to be a wash of color or sound in the background. It really had to feel essential to the scenes, and it had to inhabit the world of the kids. Like, it really had to feel like the score is a reflection of the kids' psychology and the way they see the world, and there's got to be playfulness and surprise, and delight. And one of the I'm not a musically a very technical with music, but what I shared with him early on was that I really wanted to go for broke. Like, we really need to challenge ourselves and do something different than what I've heard before in films, and also like surprise the audience with what score can do in a film like this.
It reminded me a lot of the way Barry Jenkins uses music in his films. So, Ms. Baig, thank you so much for speaking to me today. I really loved We Grown Now, and I can't wait for people to see it and get the word out. So best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.